The sky was dark, the sand was endless, and the wrecked escape pod hissed quietly in the cold wind. She woke up face down, half buried in sand. Her skin burned from the heat, her lips were dry. Her hands trembled as she pulled herself out of the broken pod. The sharp metal edges had cut her leg, but she didn't scream. No one would hear her here. She didn't know her name. She didn't remember the crash. All she knew was that she was alone, and the desert wanted her dead. She stood slowly, limping a little. The air was dry and thin, but she could breathe. That meant this world, whoever it belonged to, had oxygen. Maybe once, long ago, something lived here now. Nothing, only sand and silence. Her suit was torn. She had no food, no water, no tools. The only thing she carried was a small metal tag around her neck. One word was written on it. Exile. She looked. Around the desert, stretched in every direction. No trees, no animals, no cities. Only twisted metal scraps from the crash behind her. She walked, not because she had hope, but because standing still meant death. Every step was slow. Every breath was heavy. Then she heard a clicking sound beneath her boot. She froze. The ground under her shifted. The sand didn't feel like normal sand. It was fine, like dust. But it sparkled slightly in the sunlight. It almost looked alive. She stepped back quickly. Nothing moved. Silence returned. But now, something inside her had changed. She knelt down and touched the sand. It was warm. Not just from the sun, there was a strange energy in it, as if the sand remembered something. Old. Something ancient. She didn't understand it. But her instincts told her the sand was important. She scooped a handful and carried it back to the wreck. Inside, she found two small broken shards of metal, sat, placing the sand in a little pile, and tried to spark the metal together like flint. Nothing happened. Again, still nothing. Her hands shook from weakness. But she tried again. Then, a tiny spark. Just for a second, the sand reacted. It glowed faint red. She gasped and jumped back. The glow vanished. She leaned closer, heart pounding. She did it again. Two metal shards. Struck harder this time. Spark, glow, heat. Then dash flame. A small fire. Impossible on a lifeless world like this. But it was real, she laughed. Not from joy, from shock, from madness. Fire was life, and life didn't belong here. But somehow, she had made it. Above her, orbiting satellites turned their cameras to her. Location. Far away, deep in space, in a command center of the Garvex Empire. Alarms began to beep. "Sir, you need to see this," said a technician, his face pale. The commander of the Garvex fleet stepped forward and looked at the screen. Ah, girl. Human. Lighting fire on a long-dead exile planet. That world was supposed to be silent, the commander said. It was, for 2,000 years. The commander stared at the fire. "How is she doing that?" he asked. The technician didn't answer. Back on the planet, the girl sat near the flame, holding her hands close. For the first time since waking, she felt warmth.
Oh.
The fire gave no smoke. It burned clean, almost beautiful. Then she saw something else, movement in the sand. She stood quickly. A small shape pushed up from beneath the sand. It was metal rusted and old, but still alive. A robotic arm. It reached slowly toward the fire, like it had been waiting. She didn't move. She just watched. The arm twitched once, then powered down. She went closer and touched the arm. It sparked. Slightly at her touch. Then a speaker on its side clicked on. A robotic voice, broken and glitchy, spoke one word. Awakened. She stepped back. The fire flickered. The wind picked up. Something ancient had noticed her. Far above, in a secret room of the Zirin hive, an elder drone looked at the footage. "That sand," it whispered. "It responds to her. Should we destroy the planet?" Another asked. The elder shook its head. "No, not yet. Let's see what fire she makes from nothing." Back in the desert, the girl sat beside the dying fire. Her heart was racing. Her hands were shaking. But her eyes were calm now. The silence had changed, and the sand was watching. The second night on the desert, the planet was colder than the first. She sat near her tiny fire, wrapped in a torn blanket made from her crashed pod. The flame was small, but it still burned alive inside. Strange sand that didn't act like sand at all. Every time she added more of the glowing grains, the fire didn't just grow. It changed colors. Blue, then white, then red again. It felt like the fire was watching her, learning her, and now something else had awakened too. The robot arm from before was fully uncovered. She had spent hours digging it out, brushing the sand away like it was fragile glass. The rest of its body was still hidden under the dunes, rusted and broken, but the arm twitched every now and then, like it remembered life. She placed a burning coal near it. Click, buzz, hume. A weak light blinked on its surface. Then a slow voice came from its broken speaker. Unit. Forge assistant. Link confirmed. User, human, energy. Turning. The girl's eyes widened. It was trying to reboot. She leaned closer. You know who I am? You are. Flame carrier. It has begun again. What has begun? Voice didn't answer. The fire pulsed gently as if listening. She stood and looked up at the stars. They were clear tonight, no clouds, just silence. But she felt its eyes on her from above. Satellites, ships, maybe something worse. Then a blinking red light appeared in the sky. It was small at first, then brighter, then moved. She knew. What it meant? Someone had seen her fire. Someone was coming, but was it rescue? Or death? On the orbiting station above the desert world, the Garvax commander stared at the display. The fire was still burning. The robot had reactivated. The girl hadn't died. She's not just surviving, he said. She's using the ancient tech. An advisor leaned in. Should we inform the High Council? The commander hesitated. No, not yet. If the Sand Forges respond to her, she might lead us to the source. We watch and wait. He turned to the technician. Send a probe. Low altitude. No weapons. Just surveillance. Back on the planet, the girl had found something strange near the wreckage, a small black cube, half buried under a melted panel. It pulsed faintly when she touched it. She placed it near the fire. Suddenly, the flame jumped, growing higher and brighter. A low hum filled the air. The cube projected a flickering light into the sand, a map made of fire and dust. She stared in shock. There was a structure nearby, buried beneath the dunes. A perfect circle. A dome. Not natural. She looked down at the cube. You want me to go there, don't you? As the robotic arm sparked again. Forge. Core location confirmed. Her heart beat faster. She had no food, no water, no weapons. But the fire was showing her the way. The next morning, before the twin suns rose fully, she left the wreckage. She carried the glowing cube in a makeshift bag. She wrapped one metal shard to her arm, just in case she needed to defend herself. It wasn't much, but it was something. The sand burned her feet. But the fire inside her kept her going. She followed the map. Hours passed. Then she saw something. A dark shape in the distance. Half buried. Cracked, but real. She ran. It was an old metal dome, mostly covered by sand. Its surface was scorched. She could see human symbols on the edge, scratched and faded. She brushed them off and read slowly. Forge Core 07 Humanity's Last Light. She stepped back, stunned. Her hands touched the domanda blue. Ring of light lit up under her palms. Click, hiss, rumble. The ground shook. A hidden door opened. She stood at the edge, staring into the darkness inside. Heat flowed out, but not the kind from lava or the sun. This heat was controlled, forged, waiting. The robotic arm on her bag buzzed again. Welcome, Igniter. She took a breath and stepped inside. In the black control room of the Zurin hive, deep in another corner of the galaxy, a spy master clicked. His mandibles. She found the forge. The others hissed. That technology was buried for a reason. She's just a child, one said. No, the spy master replied, watching the flame projection. She is a spark, and sparks grow into fire. Back inside the dome, the girl walked deeper. Flickering lights came on around her. She didn't know it yet, but she had just walked into one of the last human strongholds of Forge that hadn't burned in 10,000 years. As the door closed, behind her, the fire inside her burned brighter. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was becoming something more. In a dark chamber far above the desert world, dozens of glowing eyes stared at the screen. The image showed a young girl stepping into a buried forge. The fire she had made still burned outside, red and alive, growing hotter by the hour. The alien. Leaders of the Garvex, the Zurin Hive, and the Velnari Syndicate watched in silence. The Velnari warlord broke the silence first. She's human. She should not have survived the crash. She did more than survive, hissed the Zurin elder. She woke the forge. The Garvex commander leaned forward. We've kept that world locked and dead for 10,000 years. That forge was supposed to stay sealed. What changed? The technician answered quietly. She lit a fire. From the sand, now everyone turned to him. Impossible, said. 1. That sand was just a failed experiment, forgotten tech. Not anymore, the Garvex commander replied. She's doing something our best scientists never could. They stared again at the screen. The girl had entered the forge, and she wasn't alone anymore. Inside the forge, everything was warm, not burning, not deadly. Alive, the girl walked slowly through the long metal corridor. Lights came on above her head with every step. The walls were smooth and silver, but dust-covered and cracked with age. She passed symbols, strange markings that she somehow understood. One word returned again and again. IGN, ITOR. She came to a door at the end of the hall. It opened without sound. Behind it, a giant circular chamber glowed orange. In the center sat a large black machine round, humming and pulsing like a heartbeat. The robotic voice from earlier returned. Welcome to Forge Core 07. Igniter detected. Begin activation? She paused. Her hand hovered over the control panel. Her mind raced with questions. What is this place? Why does it respond to me? What am I supposed to do? But deep inside, something felt right. She touched the panel, clicked, the entire forge shook. Machines coughed to life. Energy moved through glowing pipes along the floor. Gears spun, steam hissed, and from the walls, arms extended, tools waiting to be used. A deep voice echoed from above. Ignition sequence accepted. Flameborne protocol restarting. On the alien station, alarms sounded again. The technician looked terrified. She activated it. The core is powering up. The Zurin elder slammed his claw into the table. Send ships. Now, if she fully awakens that forge, we won't be able to stop her. The Velnari warlord growled. It's just one girl. The Garvex commander shook his head. Now that girl just brought a dead planet back to life. Inside the forge, fire flowed through transparent pipes around the room. It wasn't normal fire. It moved like it had a mind. It obeyed her presence. Slowly shifting colors, as she walked closer to the forge core, she placed the glowing cube from earlier. Into a slot, the room dimmed. Then, projection activated. Above the forge, an image appeared. A map of the galaxy. Stars, systems, fleets, and then red marks spreading across everything. The girl watched as the red lines connected planets. She recognized none of them. The forge whispered the answer. Human colonies, destroyed, lost, forgotten. She asked softly what happened to them. The voice replied, erased by the three powers. Only the forge worlds remained. Hidden, tears filled her eyes. She didn't know these places, but her heart hurt as if she had lost everything. The voice continued, You are the last link. The final key, the fire must return. Far across the stars, a hidden human base received an old, dusty signal. A red light blinked on, an old soldier gray-bearded and battle-scarred sat up sharply. He hadn't seen that signal in decades. He whispered, Forge 07 is alive. Back in the forge, The girl took a deep breath. She stepped onto the forge platform. The tools scanned her body. Broken clothes, thin limbs, now dirty skin. But the fire didn't care. It began to craft, sparks flew. Metal turned to armor. Liquid glass hardened into a blade. She didn't know how. But the forge was making something for her. Not for a soldier, not for a queen, but for a survivor. Someone who made fire from sand above the planet. The alien ships began to descend fast, silent, deadly. Their goal was simple: stop the girl, destroy the forge, erase the last light. But they were too late, because inside the forge, the girl now stood taller, stronger. Her hands wore gloves of flame-tempered steel. Her chest was covered in armor made from fireglass. Her eyes were no longer afraid. She looked into the mirror-like metal wall, and for the first time, she saw herself not weak, not forgotten, not lost. She was the Agenor, and those watching from the shadows, they would burn. The alien ships entered the atmosphere fast, black shadows falling from the sky. The girl didn't know they were coming yet. Inside the forge, everything glowed with quiet fire. The machines had finished crafting. She now wore light armor that pulsed with heat. Her gloves shimmered like melted glass. A blade rested in her hand, warm but not burning. She looked around the forge chamber. Walls once cold were alive now. Machines moved again. Energy hummed through the floors like a heartbeat. She had awakened a sleeping giant, and someone out there wanted it dead. Far above, the lead alien ship sent out a command: land silently. Do not destroy the forge. We want the girl alive. A squad of elite hunters prepared to drop. They wore black armor, no markings, no names. They had only one goal: capture the human before she spreads the fire. The girl walked deeper into the forge tunnels. The robotic voice spoke again. Warning. Multiple vessels detected. Incoming life forms. Hostile intent. She stopped. Her grip tightened on the blade. Show me, she said. A wall screen lit up, showed black ships landing near the wreck of her escape pod. Armored figures moved toward. The dome, weapons ready. They were already here. The voice continued. Time to breach, for minutes. She didn't panic. She didn't cry. She turned to the forge and asked calmly, Can you protect me? The lights on the walls dimmed. A low sound filled the air. The robotic voice answered, Forge Protocol 9 activated. Sand defense system online. The floor beneath her feet began to move. The sand inside the forge went still and dry rose. Like smoke, it twisted into shapes. A creature formed beside her four-legged, tall, and made entirely of glowing sand and fire. Its eyes burned red. She took a step back, startled. The forge said simply, Guardian formed. Command it. Outside the dome, the aliens reached the entrance. They surrounded the door. Scanning for traps, one of them touched the wall and it burned. His hand through the armor, he screamed. Too late. The sand around their feet began to swirl. They looked down in confusion. Then the sand exploded upward, forming arms, claws, blades. The first two soldiers were dragged into the dunes, screaming. Others opened fire, but their energy blasts passed through the sand like smoke. One shouted, It's alive. Another screamed, Fall back! But the sand didn't let them inside. The girl watched it happen on the screen. Her hand trembled, but not with fear. Something inside her, it changed. The fire was listening, and it was angry. One hunter made it to the dome. He blew open the outer wall and rushed inside. His scanner beeped wildly. He turned a corner. The girl stood there, waiting. Behind her, the sand beast growled low. The hunter raised his weapon. She didn't speak. She stepped forward. Once, and the forge lights flared. Her blade lit up. Glowing white-hot, the hunter fired. The shot hit her arm and melted into steam. She ran forward, fast and silent, and knocked the weapon from his hands. He swung a knife. She dodged. Then she hit him. Once with the flat of her burning blade, his armor cracked. He fell. He looked up at her, gasping. "What? Are you?" She didn't answer. She walked past him, deeper into the forge. The sand covered his body slowly, pulling him into sleep. Far away in the Zuron hive, the spy master watched the failure unfold. "Did you see?" he hissed. "She didn't kill him. She doesn't want war. Not yet." The Garvex commander clenched his jaw. "Then why did the forge protect her?" The Velnari warlord growled. "Because it remembers her. The sand, the fire, the machines, they know her blood. She is a spark from the old world." Back in the forge, the girl sat alone in the center chamber again. The robotic voice returned. "Defense complete. Enemy retreat. Awaiting next command."
She
Stared at the flame pipes along the walls. Everything had changed in just 2 days, from silence and death to fire and defense. But something still felt wrong. She wasn't here. By accident, she wasn't just a survivor. She was part of a story much older. She looked at the glowing cube. It blinked once, then showed her a new symbol: coordinates. Another location, another forge, maybe even answers. She spoke softly. "How do I get there?" The forge answered. "You must wake the rest. You are the first, but not the only." She stood again. Her fire blade hummed softly in her hand. She walked toward the exit, where the sand waited like a loyal guard. The desert still stretched wide and empty. Outside. But now she wasn't walking alone. She had the forge, she had fire, and she had a mission. The desert wind blew hard that morning. Dust covered the remains of the fallen soldiers. Their weapons lay buried, their ships burned by silent flames. But none of the other alien empires dared to send more troops. Not yet. They watched, they waited, and they feared the girl who made fire from sand. She stood at the edge of the forge, looking out across the empty desert. The sand shifted near her feet, not by the wind, but by choice. It responded to her presence now. When she walked, the grains moved aside gently. When she stopped, the sand settled like calm water. The girl raised her hand slowly. The sand rippled upward. A tiny form rose from the ground, a shape like a lizard, made of glowing fire dust. It blinked, then scurried around her feet, leaving soft trails of heat behind. She smiled for the first time in days. Inside the forge, the AI spoke again. "You have unlocked Core Command Level 1. Next step, sand programming." She turned toward the control screen. "Teach me." Lights blinked across the panel. Patterns appeared. Simple commands, movements, defense routines. This is not normal sand. It is forged matter. Each grain is a small machine. Millions of them together can become anything. She looked at her hands. "Anything... ... she whispered. The map appeared again, another buried forge. Far to the east, deep under black mountains, but reaching it would take days, and she had no ship, in a hidden room on the Garvex homeworld. Scientists stared at a live feed of her new powers. She's learning how to shape the sand. That's not possible, only master forgers could do that. The Garvex commander walked in. She's doing it. She's becoming one. The room fell silent. Then he gave the order. Send the message to the Zurin and Velnari. We don't just have a threat. We have a flameborn. My night, the girl had made something new. Using the programmable sand, she built a small shelter beside the forge. It shaped itself into strong walls, warm from within, cool against the outside wind. She shaped a sand torch that never burned out. She shaped boots for her self-light. Strong, able to walk over dunes without sinking. She shaped a wolf. It took her all night. By morning, it stood beside Hertel, silent and glowing from within. Its eyes met hers. It did not speak, but it obeyed. A sudden roar filled the sky. She looked up. A large carrier drone passed overhead. Black, marked with the Zurin hive symbols. It hovered but didn't fire. Then it released something. A voice signaled her torch picked up the message. The AI played it. "Human girl, we do not wish war. Leave the forge. Come with us. You will not be harmed." She didn't answer. The message played again. She looked up and raised her hand. The sand beside her swirled fast, forming a spear of glass and fire. She launched it into the air. The spear struck the drone's left wing dot. Boom! The drone spun out of control and crashed far across the dunes. She turned to the AI. That was my answer. Word of the crash reached the Zeron Queen within minutes. She rejected peace, said one drone. The Queen hissed. No, she rejected control. There is a difference. By midday, her sandwolf ran ahead as a scout. She followed the map. The desert grew darker, the dunes steeper, the air heavier. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, so the forge gave her no food, only fire. But somehow, she didn't feel weak. Each hour near the forge had changed her. Her body felt stronger, her steps faster. The fire, it fed her. By sunset, she reached a cliffside. From the top, she saw it a massive black mountain range, sharp like blades rising from the earth. Deep inside those mountains was the next forge. She whispered, "I'm coming." But then she froze. The ground behind her shook. She turned fast. The sand quivered. Something was coming, something big. The wolf growled low. Then the creature rose. A sand giant 20 feet tall, its body made of armored plates and dust. Its eyes burned green. Didn't belong to her. Someone else had shaped it. Then she heard voices, not human. Zeron soldiers. It's hiding nearby. It's controlling the beast. It charged. She didn't run. She whispered one word to the sand. Rise. The ground around her exploded upward, for smaller sand beasts formed fast, sharp, burning blue. She pointed at the giant. Her army attacked. The battle was fast, violent, beautiful. Sand against sand. Fire against dust. Her creatures moved like wind, slicing, biting, dodging. The giant swung hard, crushing 2 of them, but the girl moved closer. Her hands glowing, she formed another spear. Mid-air trath through it. It struck the giant's chest. The fire inside it turned red her color. The beast stopped, fell gone. The Zeron soldiers retreated. Shocked, she didn't chase them. She simply stood there. Fire flickering around her. The wolf returned to her side. She looked at the mountain and smiled. In a dark control room, the Garvex commander stood alone. He whispered to himself, she doesn't need an army, because now the sand is her army. The forge behind her was now quiet. The sand around her feet no longer followed. It obeyed and above her. A full fleet of warships began to appear in the sky. The girl stood at the edge of the mountain. Range, her armor cracked in places, her legs were tired. Her wolf beast limped beside her, but her fire still burned bright, and now the galaxy had seen enough. They weren't sending scouts anymore. They were sending everything high in orbit. And the Velnari warlord growled, his face filled with rage. She took down her drone. What, she built an army from sand? She's creating weapons older than our empires. The Garvex commander nodded slowly. Then this ends now. No more messages, no more warnings. He pressed a button. All ships. The girl watched as the sky began to glow red. The first warship fired. A burning light fell from the sky fast, screaming through the clouds like a blade from the stars. She didn't run. She whispered, "Protect." The sand beneath her flared, then rose. A wall of sand, glass, and fire exploded upward high as a tower. Thick as stone, the beam hit it and stopped. The energy split across the barrier, turning into harmless light. She stood still, unshaken. Then she looked up and smiled. Inside the second forge, hidden beneath the black mountain, the doors began to open. The ancient systems had awakened. The fire she brought had triggered it. She stepped inside without fear. The AI in her mind linked to the new forge. Core 12. Access granted. Igniter recognized. This forge was bigger, older, but still alive. She walked into the center room, placing her fireblade. Onto the main panel, the room pulsed. The second forge connected with the first. Fire flowed between them. Then a message was broadcast across the galaxy.
Alf.
Thousands of screens flickered on. People from every species watched, and on each screen, The same image appeared, a girl standing in flame. Behind her, sand rising like wings, her voice spoke calmly. You buried our forges. You erased our names. You left us in silence. But now we remember the fire, and the fire remembers us. The message ended, and the galaxy shook, undistant. Planets human survivors hiding for generations saw the signal on mining moons, in dark alleys, inside alien prisons. Eyes widened, hearts raced. The Flameborn had returned, the first sign in 10,000 years, and it was a girl who had nothing, a girl who made fire from sand, back in orbit. The Garvex fleet was preparing for another strike, but something changed. One of the ships, a human-made destroyer once stolen, centuries ago shut down its engines. The crew inside, mostly enslaved humans, stood up. One pressed the emergency override. The stolen ship turned and fired on the others. The girl saw it happen from below. A single starship falling in her defense. The sky erupted in explosions, and in the middle of it, a message came through her firelink, a voice, human, old, familiar. Whoever you are, you're not alone anymore. We see you. We follow the flame. She fell to her knees, not in pain. In relief, someone heard her. Someone finally answered, inside the second forge. More weapons were building, not just for her. The sand was forming, drones small, fast, smart. She shaped their cores with glowing crystals from the forge floor. Her wolf stood guard at the entrance. Above them, the battle raged. But the girl had changed the game. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was fighting back in the command center of the Zuran hive. Panic spread. The spy master screeched. 2 forges awakened. Ships are turning. Signals are spreading. Another drone answered. If she wakes more forges, we can't stop the fire. A pause. Then the spy master hissed. Find her. Kill her. Or this galaxy burns. Back on the ground, the girl climbed. To the top of a dune, the sand drones floating behind her. Her eyes looked at the stars. So many ships. So many enemies, but also so many voices calling her name. Now Flameborn, Igniter, Firechild. She closed her eyes. The fire inside her pulsed with the
forges.
They gave her a choice. Stay and defend, or leave, and wake more. She opened her eyes and whispered, I will light them all. The forge behind her was now quiet. The sand around her feet no longer followed it, obeyed, and above her, a full fleet of warships began to appear in the sky. The girl stood at the edge of the mountain range, her armor cracked in places. Legs were tired. Her wolf beast limped beside her, but her fire still burned bright. And now, the galaxy had seen enough. They weren't sending scouts anymore. They were sending everything high in orbit. The Velnari warlord growled, his face filled with rage. She took down our drone. She built an army from sand. She is creating weapons older than our empires. The Garvex commander nodded slowly. Then this ends now. No more messages. More warnings. He pressed a button. All ships. Prepare orbital strike. The girl watched as the sky began to glow red. The first warship fired. A burning light fell from the sky fast, screaming through the clouds like a blade from the stars. She didn't run. She whispered, protect. The sand beneath her flared, then rose. A wall of sand, glass, and fire exploded upward, high as a tower. Thick as stone, the beam hit it and stopped. The energy split across the barrier, turning into harmless light. She stood still, unshaken. Then she looked up and smiled. Inside the second forge, hidden beneath the black mountain, the doors began to open. The ancient systems had awakened. The fire she brought had triggered it. She stepped inside without fear. The AI in her mind linked to the new forge, Core 12. Access granted. Igniter recognized. This forge was bigger, older, but still alive. She walked into the center room, placing her fireblade. onto the main panel. The room pulsed. The second forge connected with the first. Fire flowed between them. Then a message was broadcast across the galaxy. Thousands of screens flickered on. People from every species watched, and on each screen, the same image appeared. A girl standing in flame. Behind her, sand rising like wings. Her voice spoke calmly. You buried our forges. You erased our names. You left us in silence. But now we remember the fire, and the fire remembers us. The message ended, and the galaxy shook, undistant. Planets human survivors hiding for generations saw the signal. On mining moons, in dark alleys, inside alien prisons. Eyes widened, hearts raced. The Flameborn had returned. The first sign in 10,000 years. And it was a girl who had nothing. A girl who made fire from sand, back in orbit. The Garvex fleet was preparing for another strike, but something changed. One of the ships a human-made destroyer once stolen centuries ago shut down its engines. The crew inside, mostly enslaved humans, stood up. One pressed the emergency override. The stolen ship turned and fired on the others. The girl saw it happen from below. A single starship falling in her defense. The sky erupted in explosions, and in the middle of it, a message came through her firelink, a voice, human, old, familiar. Whoever you are, you're not alone anymore. We see you. We follow the flame. She fell to her knees, not in pain. In relief, someone heard her. Someone finally answered, inside the second forge. More weapons were building, not just for her. The sand was forming drones, small, fast, smart. She shaped their cores with glowing crystals from the forge floor. Her wolf stood guard at the entrance. Above them, battle raged, but the girl had changed the game. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was fighting back. In the command center of the Zuran hive, panic spread. The spy master screeched. 2 forges awakened. Ships are turning. Signals are spreading. Another drone answered. If she wakes more forges, we can't stop the fire. A pause. Then the spy master hissed, find her, kill her, or this galaxy burns. Back on the ground, the girl climbed to the top of a dune, the sand drones floating behind her. Her eyes looked at the stars. So many ships, so many enemies, but also so many voices calling her name now. Flameborn, Igniter, Firechild. She closed. Her eyes, the fire inside her pulsed with the forges. They gave her a choice. Stay and defend, or leave, and wake more. She opened her eyes and whispered, I will light them all. The stars watched in silence. The sky, between galaxies, grew darker. And in that dark, the Flameburn ship faced the monster, the Zuran Prime vessel. 10 times larger, 10 times older, and made with one purpose, to kill fire. Alarms screamed. The forge ship's walls turned cold. Inside the command ring, the girl stood alone, fire fading from her hands, heat pulling away from her chest like breath in winter. Her AI said softly, this is the weapon that ended your kind before. Can't fight it. But the girl did not move. She closed her eyes, and she remembered. The boy who gave her water in the sand, the wolf beast who followed her when she had nothing, the forges that answered only to her touch, and the fire, not just in her hands, but in her people. In humans, the kind of fire that doesn't burn homes, it builds them. The kind of fire that doesn't destroy life. It protects it. The Zuran Prime vessel charged its main weapon, a black beam that could erase heat from matter. One shot. That's all it needed. On board, the High Spy Master whispered burn. Little spark. Then die. But fire had always been more than heat. It had memory. Memory had awakened. Across the galaxy, forge cores began to glow. Forgotten weapons whispered. Long-dead engineers stood before flickering fires, and children lit sparks in their hands without fear. She wasn't alone. The forge ship's AI voice cracked. Flameborn, you are not the last. You are the first. Then something impossible happened. Her ship, dying, pulsed with life, not from fuel, not from fire, but from every flame that had ever believed in her across the galaxy. Humans lit candles, lighters, old torches, anything. They stood together, from slums to space stations. Some didn't even know her name, but they knew what she meant. She was hope. She was a spark that said, "We're still here." Back in the dark sky, the black anti-flame beam fired. The stars bent, everything went still, and the girl, her body glowing, raised one hand. She didn't block it. She invited it. She whispered, "You can't kill fire with fear." The beam hit her ship. Light exploded, but not from destruction, from rebirth. The Ford ship didn't vanish. It became something new. It melted and welted and reshaped in the air. Not a weapon, not a war machine, but a living flame, a being of will and warmth. It had no engines now. It flew by faith. The girl floated at its heart, eyes golden, voice steady. "Let me show you why fire survives." The Zurin Prime vessel's hull cracked. Its anti-flame core began to fail. It couldn't understand. They had used science to destroy life, but the humans used something older, meaning the girl didn't fire weapons. She reached out with the flame of memory. She touched the spy master's mind, and he saw it all. The first human fire, the caves filled with stories, the forges that gave birth to civilizations, and the little girl once left to die in sand, who became a legend. He dropped to his knees. "You are not one. You are many. You are the fire that remembers itself." The ship imploded, not in flames, but in light. The war was over. Not because she killed the enemy, but because she made them remember what life meant, back on the desert world where it all began. The sand was quiet again, but deep under the dunes, a forge slept, ready to wake, just like others now lighting up across every corner of the stars. The girl once, nameless now, had many names. The Flameborn, the Firekeeper, the Spark of the Forgotten, the Queen of Sand, but to herself she was still just a girl who made fire from nothing. In her final message, she said only, "If you are cold, light something. Even a small flame can push the dark away. You are not forgotten. Neither is the fire inside you." Galaxy never forgot her again, because fire cannot be forgotten.